back here on the mainland. Meanwhile, an ominous warning to Republicans from the president's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon.
In a fiery speech, he says conservative voters are coming for them. And ABC's David Wright is at the White House for us this morning. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paula and Dan. Steve Bannon was speaking to the Values Voters Summit here in Washington, D.C. His speech quite warmly received, and it offered some real insights into the mentality of Trump loyalists, an angry crowd who see themselves at war with the GOP establishment.
This is not my war. This is our war.
Trump's former chief strategist insists the president is winning that war.
Every day is like Christmas Day now. I can't wait to get up. It's going to be a new package. This is the Trump program. This is what we always wanted.
As Steve Bannon sees it, Trump's first year has been a trial by fire.
You got the Bay of Pigs down in Venezuela. You have the Cuban Missile Crisis in Korea. You got Vietnam and Afghanistan. That's not his doing.
And Bannon says Republicans and Democrats share the blame. Bannon cited Republican Senator Bob Corker's sharp words to the New York Times last week about President Trump.
We could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making.
Comments that no GOP senator has condemned.
Corker said he gave up the game. He said, hey, there's only one or two senators up here that have any respect or admiration for President Trump. The rest of them all talk like I do, behind closed doors. Right now, it's a season of war against a GOP establishment.
And yet, even as Bannon was blasting the Republican establishment, President Trump was teeing off with one of its key members, Senator Lindsey Graham. This was, by our account, the 72nd day of his administration that the president visited a golf course, usually one of his own. 72 days, although his aides are cagey about whether he actually does golf on these outings. Yesterday he did. Now, President Trump, as of today, has been in office 268 days. And if you do the math, that's 1 out of every 4 days visiting a golf course. Dan and Paula?
And we know how long a round of golf could take as well. David Wright, thank you for your reporting.
And he had some pretty tough words for Obama and his golfing habit.
He certainly did. And we want to bring in our chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos, who's going to be hosting this week.
Good morning, guys.
This morning. First and foremost, let's start with Steve Bannon, basically saying he's declaring war on the Republican establishment, saying this is not my war, this is our war. But now he's out there promoting a group of primary challengers that could potentially unseat the establishment. How much of an impact do you think he's going to have?
Already had an impact. We saw in Alabama a couple of weeks ago, his candidate, Judge Roy Moore, defeated the president's candidate in that primary, who is the incumbent senator who is a member of the Republican establishment. He called out several of the Republicans by name yesterday, saying they are going to be vulnerable to primary challenges as well. It could end up unseating them. It could bring in more partisan, even more hardcore conservatives into the Republican Party. But I think the big question is, what impact will it have on the president's agenda? Will it, in fact, do anything to advance the president's agenda? We haven't seen evidence of that yet.
Let's talk about what the president's been doing in terms of rolling back Obamacare. He's made some pretty aggressive moves of late. You have Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader in the House, on the show this morning. Do you think what Trump's been doing on Obamacare makes her more or less likely to want to cut a deal with him on this issue?
Less, much less. What the president did this week was 2 executive orders, one which loosened the regulations on insurance plans, or intends to, things on pre-existing conditions and the essential benefits. Also, more important, cutting those subsidies to insurance companies, which help poor people pay for the insurance. The Democrats aren't going to go along with anything that repeals Obamacare, but the president is making progress, if you consider that progress, on his agenda of repealing and replacing Obamacare, not with Congress, but step by step on his own.
He seems to be forcing the issue. Well, you have Nancy Pelosi on the show, but you also have the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, on. And there's a lot of debate about what happens next with the Iran deal. And Trump's kind of equivocated on this, basically punted it to Congress. How do you think it's all going to play out?
That's right. He's decertified it, but is not pulled out of the deal just yet. He wants Congress to come up with tougher conditions. Right now, Congress doesn't appear to be ready to do that, although some in Congress welcome what the president did. Our allies are saying we're going to stick by the agreement right now. A lot will depend going forward on how Iran responds to this, what Congress does going forward. And I think the other big question there is, how is North Korea going to take all this? If the president seems willing to undo a nuclear deal with Iran, does that give us any hope for any kind of negotiations with North Korea?
Incredibly complex world out there. George, thank you very much.
George.
And George has a big show this morning. He's going to talk with U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, as has been mentioned. He's also going to be talking to Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, as well as Republican Senator Susan Collins. That's all coming up on This Week right here on ABC. Thank you again, George.
George has some power women on the show
Yes, he
today.
does.
Love to see that.
He
Thanks,
does.
George.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.